This if Naruto was the reincarnation of Iron Man. So as Kana was being made, well not made, but Minato was giving his attention while holding Krishina's hand while she was giving birth to her triplets. As one of them came out early, which was Shinzo, and she still had two more to go. A masked man sneaked into the cave, killing the two guards that were standing outside. As they were standing outside, he was just holding the doctor by his neck. The only remaining doctor there was a kunai. As he said to Minato, which one do you pick? If it was for me, I would have went with this child he was holding. Minato looked back and see that his child was off of the table, and he held him in his hand as well. As his shadow clone, which was hidden, was holding a statue state, just hiding in the corner. Nobody could see him. As Minato went for his son, you could say it was Shinzu, because they were triplets. There was Shinzu, my bad, not Shinzu, but Shinzu. Minato grabbed him and fled. He went to his states, where basically his home, and put Naruto there, wrapped him up, and made sure he was A-okay with no wounds. He hurried up and got back to where his wife was, giving birth to the other two. As it was too late, the nine tails were released and put under a genjutsu, you could call it. Basically, being hypnotized or mind controlled by the Sharingan the man had, as Naruto seen that. The Mangeku. He thought it was somebody from the Uchiha clan, but as soon as he freed his wife from his clutches, since he said that she was no longer useful, she was still giving birth at that point. So which means she rushed. Well, he could say, "Nah, I'm already messing up, man." But he had took her to the hospital to give birth to the other two. She said that she was going to name the second one, the second oldest, by 5. Well, basically the youngest. The second came out, and she named it Minto after Minato. She just shortened his name down to Minto. And finally, the third one came out, which was Naruto. But while this was going on, Naruto was basically fighting the masked man as he was rushing to where the front lines were, because the third Hokage saw this and how Naruto was outside on the border. He immediately went out there with the gear that the scientists made. And you might be asking, what type of gear? It's basically improved paper bombs. Since they have failed attempts at creating other things, they put all their knowledge in a book and left it at the Hokage's office, which was later turned to the library. So let's get back to the story. And as this was going on, Minato defeated the masked man like he did in canon, while putting a seal on his back, and completely just destroying him as he teleported away, saying, "I will come back and I'll show you what I can do to this village. Remember my name, Madara Uchiha." As this was going on, Minato rushed back to the front lines and seen that the Nine Tails was no longer under the Sharingan's control. Everybody seen that it was no longer under his control, so they was worried. Nine Tails finally regained his consciousness back to his body to see what was going on. Destruction everywhere. He was still in the outskirts of the village, but there was fire spreading. He blew, well, you could say he breathed in and blew out, and the fire was extinguished. There was no more fire. The Nine Tails shrunk and made a clone. He sent the clone to Konoha. It still looked like the Nine Tails, but a human shape. As Minato took the Nine Tails and had a conversation with him. He was sorry for what he did. He was under the control of Madara Uchiha, and everybody knew that. As the Nine Tails sealed, well, he was sealed inside of his 3 sons. Later, on the day at nighttime, since it was still nighttime from the battle, they was recovering. The front lines went back inside the village to recover. There were little damages to the village's wall, which was okay, They also checked the jutsu that was holding it. Basically, you could say the jutsu around the village that was keeping it hidden. Otherwise, the name wouldn't be hidden Leaf Village. It was okay. There was a little burns to the genjutsu they put on there. They repaired it, and later they destroyed all the trees that was burned that was causing the illusion to completely wear off. So for a day, the illusion weared off. They repaired it and used all their people to repair the jutsu and repair their village. As the Ninetales clone, which only hold 1%, you could say 1.9% of his chakra, was sealed into the oldest Shinzo, which only had 1%, which was the chakra. And Mento was sealed, you could say 0.8, which was his chakra. And Naruto was sealed with only, well, you could say just 0.1% of that chakra as well. Well, not chakra, but the soul of that clone. As the Ninetales fled that day and went to a cave nearby he made by himself, which was miles away from Konoha, outside of the genjutsu they used to keep it hidden. As the Ninetales went to sleep, he said, "One day, I'm going to do what Father said for once and just sleep through this whole year. Try to get my brothers free and sisters." As everything's going nice, we're going to have a time skip here. We're going to have it about 5 years from now. And as it was 5 years from now, Shinzu, which was originally 1, has turned 6 years old, and Mento was only 4 years old, while Naruto was, of course, the youngest, so which means he would be only 2 years old, as you guessed it. Also, I'm also creating this as I'm talking right now, so excuse me for the long pauses. So, during this time skip, Minato and his wife trained Shinzu and Mento. They left Naruto out because he wasn't old enough for the training yet, which Naruto understood very well, since you don't see a lot of shinobis training their 2-year-olds. Because in this village, and also in this story, you could say that they could walk and talk at age 1. Well, you gotta go through the month cycle first. So at 1, they could talk better, but not that much. And like that, act like us when, like, basically act like dogs when they grow up. And once they reach 2, they fully get their consciousness set in. As we have another time skip from Minato and his wife training Shizu and Mintu, which Shinzu turned 7 now, and also his brother. No, let's make it a 2-year time skip, which means Minto will be 5, and Shinzu will be let's just make him 9 for right now, the oldest, as he should be. As Naruto was now 4 years old, he was happy since he liked to go in the library a lot, to read a lot. He was basically the almost the smartest person in the village. And since he was the smartest, he used to hear Jiraiya Sensei talking about the prophecies. So that's why Minato and Kurashina was training Shinzo and Mento, because they thought that they too were going to be the child of prophecy from all of the rattling and tattling. As this was all going on, Naruto was just studying, and one day he came home from the library, since the thing with their jerkies hasn't leaked out, since it was an S rank secret, and whoever talked about it was immediately executed. So no one really knew it except Hiruzen and Minato, and also some Anbu, which was Kakashi and Itachi at the time. Also the Uchiha massacre. Well, basically the Uchiha clan was still alive, and all of his members didn't get murdered by Itachi yet. And Danzo, he was just chilling, reading books and stuff, trying to figure out how to increase the military power of the village. As this was all going on, Naruto was still studying, because he couldn't be trained until he reached the age of 6, thanks to that prophecy that Jiraiya told, which Jiraiya was, he had a 90% chance of always being right, especially since it came from a Toad Sage. So during the Toad Sage, we gonna get into the Toad Sage. So as Jiraiya came back after, well, since Shinzu was 9, to teach Shinzu how to summon the toads, and Tsunade was going to train Minto, which was a girl. Basically, Shinzo was a boy and Minto was a girl, and Naruto was also a boy. So, as was going on, Tsunade was Jiraiya brought because it took a whole year for her to bring Tsunade back to the village for her duties. Because Minto always wanted to become a medic, just because it's their brother. Even if there wasn't the child of prophecy or the child of prophecy changed, there was going to be brother, sister, and brothers. Brothers and sisters, basically. As this was happening, somewhere deep inside of the cave, well, in Konoha, but miles away, the Nine Tails was still sleeping. He finally woke up, and since his clone died, but his chakra was sealed, he could see everything they see. So he was having an interesting time. But the one he was interested in the most was Naruto. Naruto was, even though he had some chakra from being a Uzumaki and just being Uzumaki alone, had a lot of chakra and Namikaze. As this was all going on, Naruto was still studying, even though he was basically not that, as he was in canon. He wasn't that weak. You could say he was almost like his Genin. He was kind of like a Genin in knowledge and power. So you could say he's powerful, but not that powerful, since he hasn't had any training to control what he was doing now. Only thing he trained as a ninja was his chakra control, which was excellent. His brothers had better chakra control than him, like about 2% better than him. So as this was going on, Ninetales saw it, so he saw an opportunity. What if he gave an extra, like 1% of more chakra to Naruto, since he had the lowest amount, only the clone's soul. So the clone's soul was like, the seal was pretty strong, but it was weak compared to him, thanks to not having the full Ninetales seal size. So it was still some gaps he could wiggle through some chakra or talk to Jubi. Well, not Jubi, but he could talk to Naruto. So he waited until the perfect chance, because Naruto had to grow up so he can actually reach outside the village, which was just about, it's only going to take 1 hour back and forth from where the Ninetales currently is, inside of a cave. He made the cave well hidden so that no Shinobi could find him. So when the time came where Naruto got interested in technology, he was a scientist, no less. He asked his parents for his attic. Well, their attic, since it was basically full of useless junk they didn't need anymore. And since it was just needless junk, they let him have it. They asked him why he needed the attic, and they just said, well, you could say he just said he needed a base for chemistry and forging. So they allowed him to. They brought him what he needed the most, the chemistry and the forging set. They just asked him to be real careful with it. So as this was going on, Naruto invented multiple things. He invented an AI, which was pretty weak from the drivers we know in Iron Man right now, but it's going to get stronger. As he was doing all of that, you could say that during that time skip, he was forging some technology, but he wanted the technology to be stronger and give it a whole more force. Because as you know, current metal will bend to all shinobis. So Naruto was wondering how the metal they was using in their hand, the kunai, didn't break. And he thought to himself. His father told him that because it wouldn't break it's because it was chakra enhanced, which means chakra is flowing into the kunai. And it also strong enough to hold large amounts of chakra in it. And it has to be poured in during the metal making. So Naruto took that step and he talked to local blacksmiths around the village, which didn't really like Naruto, but they was okay with it since he was the fourth Hokage's son. They didn't want to get in trouble or executed, more or less. So during that time, Naruto invented, well, basically made chakra metal. Instead of folding the regular 10 times to hold about like 2% of chakra in it, he folded it 20 times, and then 30 times, and then 40. Even do it for a 4-year-old. That was pretty strong since he had so much chakra. He focused all his chakra into his arms and breath to make that 40 times bended metal. And he poured chakra in it each time he hit the metal. And at the end, he made 5 pieces of it. You could say 5 large pieces, big as a 50-inch TV. He gave 2 of them, well, you could say 1 of them to a blacksmith. And blacksmith was overjoyed. He said, "You can use my forge anytime or ask for my knowledge or help anytime." Because if you didn't know, chakra metal was really, really, really rare since most blacksmiths, they didn't have that much chakra, so they asked for shinobi's help. And even then, it's rare occasion that it's naturally formed. So you could say it's basically titanium at this point. And since it was titanium, Naruto was overjoyed. He made something successful and took the rest to his lab that he made in his attic, his base. As he was working on a project of technology, it mentioned in book in the library. He basically took a lot of books from the library. Some about technology, the human body, and ninjutsu and taijutsu. So he programmed a robot, an AI, just like an Iron Man. At this point, Jarvis was, you could say, 10% smarter than, 10 times smarter than Jarvis and Iron Man. So he learned everything from the ninja world. At the same time, inventing many things. So during the 2-year time skip that we finna do again, Naruto became 6 years old, ready for training, but he didn't really get an opportunity to train since they went on a training trip, the last training trip they would have. So Shinzu became 11 now, and was finna enter the tuning exams, because Minato, since he's still the fourth Hokage, halted the exams to happen. So Mento was now 9 years old and Naruto was 6 during these 2 years time skip. So as they was finishing his training, Minato asked Shinzu to hunt the most wildest thing in the forest of death. You could say it was a leopard. This leopard was so strong that you could say it was Genin level. This is how they proved. Well, this is how Minato was growing up. His parents showed him to hunt the same animal, since if he defeated it or captured it alive, it would become a pet and a strong one at that. It grows with the user, since it was made out of chakra and it had flesh and blood. So Shinzu came back with a tamed leopard. It was Genin level, like right on the point where it's about to go into a Chunin level. Well, during this time, Mento was being trained by his mom still, as Minato and his wife agreed that it would be best to take him out on a trip. They told Naruto that they'll be back in, let's say, 1 week. So during this 1 week, Naruto had the whole house to himself and some cash that his parents left behind. And also Tsunade came, so Mento is being trained by Tsunade and his mom. And also, just to let you know, Mento is a female and Shinzo is a boy, so is Naruto. So during this times, they all went on a Christmas trip. You could call it Christmas because it's kind of snowing where they are right now, since it's the middle of the winter. Naruto was inventing his Mark 1 with the metal he made, which is pretty strong at the point where it could absorb tailed beast chakra, which he was glad for. And during this, he completely made a rough but not that technological breakthrough in Mark 1. So he did a test, and he was going to halt the test until 1 week, which was Sunday when his parents was going to come back. So they all did and looked over the house while Naruto went to the basement he made under the house. He said the basement under the basement. He said he made it as a room which will be assembling the armor that he needs to go and do stuff. So once this was happening, Naruto was pretty hyped up. He told his AI to disassemble the armor on armor stand and put it on him. Naruto was already prepared for this, and on the first day of the week, he created exoskeleton armor that will protect him when he's wearing the armor at all cases. So as the AI was deassembling the armor and putting it on Naruto, he decided that it would be a great time to, test out multiple of his functions, since Naruto was also creating weapons for his Mark 1, which wasn't that powerful than the one in Iron Man, the first Iron Man, actually. So as this was all happening, Naruto finally decided to do the test, which was on Sunday. Jarvis, the AI, told him that he should wait just one more day because he detected an error in the battery. Like, he detected that where the test was going to commence, he was going to fly a huge meter like to the mountain, which was the closest to them. It would only take like an hour to get back and forth, like 30 minutes basically. So as Naruto was took off the armor and was calibrating, he seen the problem that Jarvis was talking about, the battery capacity. If he were to fly right now, he would crash in about like 2 minutes because the battery capacity was so low. He thought it could hold about like 20 minutes, and he realized I forgot to change the 3 and put a 2 instead. So it only holded 30% of energy. He needed 200. He thought to himself. So he made some minor adjustments and created the arc reactor. Arc reactor was kind of like Iron Man's but different. It didn't have the circle. It had a square. Instead, as it had the square, he said, what if it was powered by chakra instead of electricity? What if it was powered by all 3? So you must be wondering, like, all 3. It was going to be electricity, chakra from the nature, and chakra from him himself. So he was doing this, and he decided, hey, it would be a good idea if I had upgraded you as well, Jarvis. So as he was upgrading Jarvis, Jarvis became, this time, 30% more powerful than the normal Jarvis, which was the end credits. So as this was all happening, Naruto was finally ready for his test, which was today was Monday. He woke up early in the morning, had breakfast with his family, and he said, I'll be back. I'm going to the mountains, which was okay for them since he went to the forest of death times to hunt animals. So during this, Naruto hyped into his armor, hopped, as Jarvis would have put it on him, as he couldn't really do that much right now. So he said, prepare to launch thrusters to, let's say, 20 psi, as he launched into the air as the roof for the basement opened. He went through a long tunnel and finally went out. As the villagers seen a boom, they heard a boom, and they seen clouds disappear in that area. Naruto was going pretty fast. He could feel his skin wanting to fall off, literally, even though he was inside metal, chakra metal. As Jarvis was keeping an eye on his power reserves and the suit in general and where they was going. So he was multitasking. As Naruto seen things apply, like not apply, but appear on his HUD screen, Naruto calculated the distance where he was going to land during the test site since it was already painted red where he was going to land. As Naruto landed, not in 30 minutes, but in 10. Thrusters are faster than I thought. And he said, if I go any faster than this, I might literally die. So he increased it to 10 psi. So he still had holes and stuff inside of his armor to get oxygen. As he landed there in 30 minutes, like he originally thought to, it felt good to fly. So he tested some of his weapons in the Forest of Death, which was the Mountain of Death. It was 20 times powerful than the Forest of Death. His father didn't know that yet. So, as he was walking, he encountered you could say, a lion. And this lion was pretty powerful. It was a Genin level, like 20 times stronger than the Genin. And as this was going on, Naruto was just finally got a good test subject other than his weak hyenas that usually you could call them grass, like earth hyenas. And they use earth as their main chakra style. As he subdued the lion and the lionesses, they worshipped Naruto. And they also found the lion's common enemy, which was the baboon. The baboon was fighting Naruto at full strength. Naruto had no chance but to use the arc reactor, since his arms was pinned down to the ground. The arc reactor lit up for a second as the baboon was confused, and it completely shot a hole in the baboon. The baboon was as strong, but as weak as the first tail Shikaku. As this happened, the baboon looked like he was fading into nothingness. But the whole time he was being absorbed by the armor as well, since it was chakra enhanced. They could hold chakra to recover the battery, since he used that blast, which took up, you could say, 90% of his energy. And the reserves kicked in because at 10%, that's not good. It lasts 1 hour. The whole suit battery was supposed to last 5 hours in total. So he was on the right track, you could say. And then he realized an alarm came on his screen and said, "You're going to be late for dinner," Jarvis said. And he said, "Oh snap." He hurried up and took the lions and lionesses to where his house was, since he made a bunker, just in case if he captured anything. And he named his lions and lionesses. You could say he named the lion after Shikaku, with 2 U's this time. So Shikaku, you could say, or you could just call it Shikaku for purposes. And the lionesses was, you could say, he didn't really name them, so he just let the lion name them. Just the lions can't talk now since they got a name. So they all liked him. He fed them. He let them train, and he even invented armor for them. He was pretty strong for what he was standing at. So he walked into his house. Well, just the shed he made, the bunker, was still far away from his house, 30 minutes away from his house. On his way, the baboon kind of bit some wires, so the electricity was leaking out faster. And Jarvis was no longer multitasking, he was focusing on the distance, as the armor is suddenly turned off. And since it was still flying, since the thruster still had juice, he was going at 30 psi. Well, 29 psi. A little bit of wind, not too fast for him though. As this all happened, the villagers and even the Tsunade and Jiraiya, basically his whole family, seen an Iron Man, like a heavy iron. As the Hyuga clan, this time it was at Naruto's house, and they used his Bakugan. Well, Neji was out there. He used his Bakugan on that big metal, and he seen had some chakra in it, but not that much, like 20%. And it was heavy. Like his bakugan kept telling him it weighed over like thousands of pounds, like 1 ton. That was it. As it came crashing down, everyone ran as the backup generators inside the suit activated since drivers turned off for a few minutes since the wire's bit was connected to Jarvis. As he landed, the armor followed emergency protocols if it was finna crash, and it stayed still, searching the area for any damage to the ground because Naruto really cared about life that much. And during that, Naruto said initiate a retrieval, and the armor will disengage, and the armor really disengaged as it came off of Naruto, opening the chest piece. Naruto walked out with a big cloud of smoke around him, coughing a little bit. And as the armor turned into a suitcase, because he upgraded it from Sunday to that point so that it could transform to a small object. And during that time, the smoke cleared, and his parents and everyone there seen him, and they said, "Have you seen that Iron Man? Well, that iron metal thingy?" And he said, "Yeah, that was me." He said, "We believe you because the suit kind of malfunctioned during this suit protocol, so it was still in this standing up. It didn't turn into a suitcase like he thought it would." He said, "I need to make some adjustments to that." He said, "You was inside of that thing?" He said, well, as his parents said that, Naruto said that that was him. He went to the mountain and back. And he said, well, Minato said, less than 2 hours? He said, yeah, it needs some minor adjustments, so if you don't mind me, I'll go to my room, which was kind of the attic. And as he came upstairs real quick with his chakra and went back downstairs with another reactor, he pulled the current reactor he had out as he said, everyone, as soon as I put some chakra into this, you might want to run. He said, why? Because he said it releases strong discharge. If you caught in that discharge, you most likely be in a coma for 2 days. And I said, as soon as he did it, he ran himself. As the reactor touched the floor, and it released a strong electrical discharge. It basically burned the area around him, but it wasn't coming from him. It just burned where it fell at. And as it cooled down, everyone seen that even a bird that was near him, a house completely fell down and was in a coma. As the suit went to the suitcase form, and he put it all into his attic, his base. They were surprised by this. He was just awesome, they thought to themselves. As Jinzu was jealous, so was Mento. They was jealous because they never seen that, and it was pretty powerful. It was even the nine tails inside of them. The chakra was useless compared to that, since it kind of got absorbed. Since Shinzo was faster than Minato, like 20%, but he could still react if Minato wanted to. He quickly went near the armor to try to steal a piece of it, and it absorbed like 1%, like 0.1 of the nine tails chakra out of him, which means Naruto now officially had inside the armor nine tails chakra. As the armor and the arc reactor that fell out came with Naruto, and everyone was thinking to themselves, they had a smart son to create something that could fly. And of course, Jarvis heard his master coming, so he quickly opened the locks that was guarding the attic. As it opened, and Naruto seen his lab completely functional as it's supposed to, and he said, "You can close the door now." And you know how you got like the attic that opens and closes with ladders coming down? It immediately went up, and locks immediately fell on the door, just sliding into place, holding that door closed forever. As he said this, and he took apart the armor out of the suitcase mode back into the armor stat mode. He made some more adjustments, and during this adjustment, tomorrow was going to be their brother's birthday, since he was also born with Shinzu, and Mento was born on the same day. So their birthday passed, which was not mentioned yet, but it's going to be that day. So Shinzu was now 12, and Minto was now 10. And Naruto's birthday came as soon as possible. Tuesday. He fell asleep on accident. And instead of being his original age, which was 5, he was now 7 years old. Don't ask me why, I'll explain it later. So, Naruto was being trained by his parents. He said, I don't need it, I just need you to teach me chakra control. So everybody agreed, and Naruto was doing all of that. Then Jiraiya said, I can teach you something cool, boy. And Minato's wife said, you better not teach me nothing pervy. And he said, what you mean? And she knew that he created that book about, you could say, the bees, as your parents would call it, the bees and the apples. And basically, he said fine, as Naruto was now being trained to summon like creatures like toads, and basically summon the legendary people. Naruto didn't summon anything, but Jiraiya couldn't see what he summoned. He summoned something quite powerful for his age, and it was extremely powerful. So powerful that if he summoned a toad, the Toad Elder couldn't really defeat him. So he kept it under wraps. He hid it in his suit. Well, you can say suit, but the clothes he was wearing. What he summoned was a small, very small ant. I'm gonna give you a list now. Like the toads were the second strongest. The first strongest was the dragons, and the third strongest would be the monkey clan, and the fourth would be the ant clan. The ant clan was really smart workers, since they also had their own duties in metal. So Naruto was happily agreed that he summoned a fourth strongest, since nobody really understood what they could do. They all work as a colony, so it makes the job faster. So as this was going on, Naruto got a birthday present, and it was basically a hammer, an enchanted hammer. And he was thankful for it. And it was now bedtime. So Naruto went back up to the attic to sleep. But then he had another idea. He said, Jarvis, what was all the errors in my Mark 1? And Jarvis pointed out that some of these errors were the PSI, like the air pressure, was going through the holes he made for oxygen. So please make, well, my prediction is to make a make oxygen generated in the armor, sir, so you won't have to make holes in it. And Naruto said, good point, good point. What's the next one? The next one is that when the electricity ran out, it kind of malfunctioned, turning into a suit. So, which means you might need to upgrade that function as well. Maybe make it into a watch or something. Naruto said, good idea, good idea. And then the third one, the last one of the list, Jarvis said. He said, I sensed that when he was fighting the baboon bit some wires, which alerted me, but I couldn't say anything because it caused a malfunction in my own system on the suit. So I couldn't detect it earlier. So Naruto investigated in the morning to find out that there was holes and bite marks in the wires. So he adjusted it, and he had put it into a case, a glass case of the armor, so it can always shine the brightest. And he said, well, it's time to make Mark 2. He took what Jarvis said into consideration and made Mark 2. Mark 2 was just getting started, so you could say it took 3 days to fully build Mark 2. As Naruto was still inventing Mark 2, he decided to upgrade a lot of things about the armor this time. He decided to make another and better arc reactor. Now the arc reactor could hold 200,000 chakra in tons, and it had way more better reserves. So which means 10% now turned to 100%. and the whole battery could just hold up to 500,000, just like that. The extra chakra was being dealt with, and the armor was also reinforced even more. As Naruto fully made the Mark II armor, which is in the original Iron Man. He made the missiles, the paper bombs, whatever, you name it. He needed some more knowledge to make the armor more powerful. So he asked Jarvis, what will make the armor more powerful? Or what should I create next? As Jarvis started going through his database, he said, do you remember what Neji said when you first landed in the Mark 1? His Bakugan couldn't see that there was nobody in there. Maybe we should create a dojutsu. He said, what are the two strongest dojutsus out right now? What in this village? He said the Sharingan from the Uchiha clan and the Bakugan from the Hyuga clan. He said, perfect. What are its features? He said, as Jarvis hummed to light and said, the Sharingan, it has better combat abilities, but can also slow down and increase the reaction time and put people under a dojutsu or a genjutsu. Forgot the name was, but helps in combat. I would say a little bit more, so more reaction time, you could say. And then he said, what about the Bakugan? And Bakugan said, well, not Bakugan, but Jarvis said, the Bakugan can basically see chakra, small amounts and huge amounts of chakra. Since it was like this, Naruto said, so what if I were to combine the two? What would I get? He searched the library database that he created all the books from. Got all the books from. He actually went through the whole library, just putting all knowledge into Jarvis. He even went to other villages on his family trips sometimes to collect the books. As this was happening, Naruto finally made something. Well, Jarvis finally came across something. He said, I think it's called the Rinnegan, a god's eye. And he said, caution, with this you might become permanently blind. But there's another version that the Sage of Six Paths used, which was called the Eternal Rinnegan, God's true eye. Naruto thought of this and he said, okay, time to create some artificial eyes. As Naruto immediately started doing that, he said, is there any other chakra natures other than the 5 original? He said, as Jarvis home to life again and said, running through database, not that I know of, sir. There's no library books from all 4 states, but there are legends. He said, what are the legends? There were 5 original, like earth, wind, fire, and so on. But there were another 3, which was the strongest, which was light being strong and darkness. And then you have you have mana from the legends, and you also have what they call chi. And the last one will be the hardest to see under the naked eye, with even the dojutsus everyone combined. Well, not combined, because they really couldn't create it combined at all. He created another Six Paths used another jutsu, and he called it something similar to chi, but he called it the final. He called it God's chakra, which is really different. It had all chakra combined together, except mana. Mana was the strongest there is. So as that happened, he said, is there a way to collect that mana? Or is there any in me present now? He said no. So Naruto halted his eye program and designed a machine, which was pretty easy, since he had advanced technologies by now. Which again caught the attention of you-know-who, Danzo. And Danzo was sent his Anbu to spy on Naruto, but since he was in Akagi's office with his parents, they really couldn't see through his house. Which was strange, even if Itachi was spying on Naruto. So Itachi noticed he couldn't spy on Naruto, but he did spy on Naruto when he did go to the library to collect things about the Sharingan and how to, basically gunpowder. explosives and paper bombs. Naruto went to the training grounds and threw one of his advanced weapons, which was a grenade this time. As Itachi looked in confusion, what is that small object? As Naruto clenched it real tight and pulled a pin out of it. And Itachi hurried him to activate his Sharingan since he sensed chakra. But something not like chakra, but just actual powder with some residue of chakra in it. As Naruto waited 5 seconds and hurried him through it. As soon as it touched the air in a total of 3 seconds, it blew up, causing a huge explosion. And during this event, Itachi was surprised. If he was standing right there, even though he's almost very strong, like that strong, his body would not be able to handle that. Naruto even made a custom-made dummy that could surprise even Itachi himself. Everybody used that modified dummy. And all you could see of that dummy now was pieces of it. His arm was still on the ground, and the thing that was holding the dummy in place was completely vanished into nothingness. Trees got only their tip burned, like the leaves of the tip was burned. And all you could hear was boom. That was it. Itachi quickly reported back to Danzo saying he made some type of bomb, he called it. But Naruto called it another name, a grenade. As this really caught the attention of Danzo. Danzo immediately rushed to the testing site where Naruto was 1 hour ago. He used his favorite, Bakugan, which was someone in basically Neji, who grew up faster than in canon, and seeing that the residue of chakra was scared of what that was. It wasn't really scared, but it had a hole in the natural chakra order. And he said if you were standing there right now, you'd be gone. Yeah, where the bomb was thrown at, that place would be gone. If he was holding it any longer than 7 seconds, no, let's change it to 10 seconds. He said your whole body would have been gone. The closer you are to that blade, well, the grenade, Naruto called it, you die. And so Danzo was really interested. He sensed that if I got Naruto to make these bombs for me, then maybe we could really become the strongest village in all the 4 nations. Konoha will be feared. As Danzo thought to himself, grinning, he said, continue work, Itachi. Neji, you should, on Naruto's 8th birthday, you and Itachi will quickly execute, well not execute, but watch him closer. Try to get inside there. Basically have a sleepover with him, but spy on him at the same time. This is really okay, and they all agreed. So Naruto went back, and he finished his eye program. So during the first project, he created not a eye, but a contact that can't be pulled from his eye at all. So he made it a color he liked the most, which was the blue, since his eyes were originally, you could say, a yellow. No, let's make it a yellow colored eye, because his original eye was blue. So as it was blue, the first one he put in there was the Sharingan, since it looked the coolest. As the Sharingan hummed to life on the screen, it only had the first Sharingan, the first Tomei. And as you know, it advances. So Naruto programmed with the other eyes looked right into the system as well, and the eye completely came to life. He put the contact zone, and he could see that he already unlocked the 3 Tomoe. So as he unlocked the 3 Tomoe, he was happy. But on his eye, it glue a reddish color. Depends on what form it was in. He studied all of the Sharingans. So he only knows the one that was currently in there, the God's Eye and Magnifico Sharingan, and other ones like that. So as it was happening, Naruto went out and he created a very fast for a Uchiha machine he made, so he could upgrade their reaction time and without killing their chosen ones, unlock the other Sharingans. But there's still a limit on it. They still have to kill their family members or someone dear and important to them to really unlock the other versions of the Sharingan. So everybody in the Shiha compound literally had 2 Tomoe, including Itachi. Itachi was the fastest. It took him 12 tries to fully unlock the second Tomoe, which now, in current reality, he unlocked the third Tomoe. Everyone in the village had 2. And it was all a surprise because Itachi was their protege. And Itachi had a brother named Sasuke, which was now the same age as Naruto. And like I said, the exams are currently held until Shinzo turns 13. That way, because Shinzo always wanted to participate. So during this time and space, Naruto finished Mark 2, and he upgraded it, turned into whatever he decided to. So, he invented more weapons like missiles, and put it all on the iron suit he made. And he named it, not a P, well, his mom gave him a name. He said, "Mom, that's a cool name for it. I will name it Iron Man. That's my new name for this armor, Iron Man." So he tried Mark 2. He said he's kind of technically a teenager age in our reality. So, but their reality, you gotta get a headband in order to really become a teen, a full teen. So he's a preteen. He said he'd be back in 5 days. So during these 5 days, he activated his armor and initiated his base to go into lockdown mode, so no one could sneak in, basically. So as this was happening, he lifted off and boom, just disappeared. The villagers had seen him and said, as some child in the village said, "Mommy, I want to be just like that. I want to fly in the sky, like Naruto." And then their dad said, "One day you can, one day you can." Without that help of the iron suit of his. And Naruto had adjusted his suit to immediately launch off a 10, so it's pretty slow. He said, "Alright, let's do another test. Initiate 30." And he was going in a random direction. So he said, "Drivers, where's the nearest town?" And he said it was going to be the land of mist that's currently near him. He said, "Alright, go 35 this time. 35 PSI in thrusters." And what's the battery percentage now? Battery percentage is still 500. Well, it's 500,000. It can hold 500,000 megawatts and chakra and other things. But right now, it's still on 100%. As he lifted to 35%, he arrived there in a total of 5 minutes just to see blood everywhere. He seen that the third tailed beast was Free the Turtle. As someone kept saying help, and it was the rebel leader. As him and some of his family members he saved and other ones, basically he had half of all the mist people there. Zabuza was the one protecting them. Zabuza wasn't evil in this timeline, and so wasn't Haku. They was evil in a point of time, but they changed their ways since they had thought of something. They got out of Grotto's command because Grotto was just a mean person, just raping people and stealing money. He betrayed Zabuza. And Zabuza apparently had cut off his arm, and Grotto felt pain, so he ran away from the village. He went to his cave that he was hiding in, like pretty far. It would take like 24 days to get to where he is now. Go back to the Mist Village. As Naruto appeared right when the tail beast was about to smack him with his tail, Naruto caught it with his bare hands. In his suit, of course. As the tailed beast looked confused, he launched his other 2. And Naruto, with his right hand, just blasted him with his pulse blast, he said. As people behind him seen him, and they was wondering, like, how is this man alive? He's basically made out of metal. A metal giant, they said. He's probably even a demigod. A demigod has answered our prayers, finally. And Naruto has said, "Shut up, I ain't no demigod. I'm Naruto Uzumaki," the armor said. And then they was surprised by Naruto's certain behavior. Because, you really can't talk in front of a battle, like I said earlier. If you talk, you might get caught slipping. So as this was going on, Naruto was still fighting the third tails. And he said, "I have enough of this." He initiated his reactor to come out just a little bit, since he has a nuclear reactor. A nuclear reactor was already invented during Mark 1. He was absorbing the third tail's power. He already knew that there was a Jinchuriki protecting, well, basically the vessel of the third tail. So he was absorbing the energy and chakra from him. As the third tail became weaker and weaker, losing some of his tails and transforming back to his red form, all the way back to human. As Naruto was still gripping onto his first tail, he cut off a sample with his arms, basically at his fingertips, advanced. So as it sucked the blood out of the third tails and gained a lot of his chakra, third tails was finally back inside the vessel and sleeping. Sorry if you hear all that jumping and bumping, but as this was happening, the third tails, right before he went back to sleep, and said, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm Naruto Uzumaki. And you can find me in the Konoha village, the village hidden in the leaves." And as everyone thought it was going to be them next, Naruto opened up his helmet and seen that it was just a small 7-year-old boy in. As this was all happening, Naruto still had his contacts in, but they were activated. Since Jarvis said there's no use to keep the eye activated right now. So as this was happening, they all thanked Naruto and gave him a letter. They sent a letter to Konoha requesting an alliance. Well, not like a temporarily, like a permanent alliance, but temporarily. It was only gonna last 5 days because they was gonna send materials only to straight to Naruto and nobody else. So as this was all happening, Naruto was fully invented things. So I'm sorry for what's happening in the background, but this is going to be part 1. So thank you for watching.